Welcome back to PCM Yeti episode 114, following our Tour de France success with 6 stages won, 5 by Vácek, and an overall second place from him and team classification victory for us. Things are looking really good in the rankings front. Vácek has jumped to 5th place from 20th, where he was ranked previously, and at roughly 4,800 points, he finds himself actually only 500 points out of second. And yet he's almost 1,200 points ahead of 6th place Stilley just behind him. So he's into that upper category. Pogačar, total world of his own, completely dominant, but then it drops off. And yeah, Vingegaard's still ahead of us, but we just dominated Vingegaard at the Tour and did really well. And because of that, the gap in the team rankings has narrowed significantly. Now, between the Giro and the other races in that period of time, we amassed a lot of points and we climbed the rankings. We started the year a little bit on the slow side, not claiming a lot of points, just having success. We weren't claiming victories. And then we started to get the ball rolling somewhere around April or May. We jumped up the rankings. We barely got our way to 3rd place. Well, suddenly we find ourselves well over 2,000 points ahead of Soudal Quickstep. And the tiniest of margins, just 3 points behind Visma now in second. Now, it's still a huge jump to UAE, and Visma's got a good chance to pull away from us now, as I highly doubt we're going to replicate a podium at La Vuelta, though Vácek is scheduled to be there, but he's doing a back-to-back, and it's really hard to put in a similar performance as what you did, and the team around him will not be quite as strong for La Vuelta as what we had for the Tour, and so more likely we'll be focused on stages once again. And speaking of the national rankings and what came out of stages. So Denmark is the highest ranked nation that we have unlocked, but we unlocked them this year, as we did with the UK and the US and Slovenia. So we just unlocked 4 top 10 nations, and the Czech Republic was 17th, but thanks to Vácek, they have just jumped 7 spots to 10th in the rankings. So we had, earlier this year, none of the top 10 nations, despite all the success that we had, and Hagelin in particular. I think with Hagelin last year, we had Liechtenstein like all the way up somewhere around 13th or 14th or 15th. Well, all of a sudden we have plenty of top 20 nations. In fact, there is much less than 20 nations remaining to unlock. We have snowballed so many nations this year in particular that we are looking at 4 pop 9s, a single pop 8. So there's 5 nations in the Tour de France unlock only. That's it. We just unlocked 6 this year. Next year we could literally unlock all of the remaining nations of the upper tier. For the lower tiers, we already cleared out the pop 5s, and we're down to just 2 pop 4s, which we could easily get the remainder of this year, because it's 2 wins. It's 2 wins. We might be able to pull that off and complete the pop 4 pool. And like I said, pop 5's done. In the pop 6, which is your other Grand Tours, so Giro or La Vuelta, in order to unlock, we still have a ways to go there. We got 3 wins at the Giro, but that was a fairly large pool, which is now down to 6 nations. If we could pull off a couple 2 to 3 wins at La Vuelta and trim that down, you could guarantee that next year, depending on how the tour goes, we could unlock everything remaining. We could have total access to the entirety of the pool if we can secure 5 wins at the Tour next year. The rest of that, right, with 6 to go in Grand Tours, with 1 more this year, plus the 2 would be for next year. So between 3 Grand Tours, we're going to get 6 wins. Fairly confident in 3 tries, right? In 63 stages, we're going to get 6 wins. That's not a guarantee, but that's certainly I've got a good amount of confidence that we can do that. Like I said, we got 3 in one tour this year, and all we have to do is repeat that twice, and you've got it done. Stretch it out over 3, we don't have to win twice. It's very possible, especially as we get better and stronger, but that's not a guarantee. Now, the 2 wins remaining for the Bob 4s, that is such an easy number to achieve at this stage. But we're getting close to unlocking everything. But here's the thing about what we've unlocked this year. We started slow, we got going, and we've really picked up the pace. We got 3 wins at the Giro, we got like 2 wins just after, or 3 wins or 4 wins just after in the races in between, and then we've just gotten 5 wins at the Tour. We're a week away from signing day, and all of this has happened after dossiers began for the year. So a couple things happened therein. One, I'd already made my selections, and if you're going to sign a big name, you've got to open the dossier like day one to get, when we're still a Continental Pro team, to attract a big name that would push us towards World Tour. You've got to get them to 100% to get their, a 10K cut in the money they would be willing to accept to have any chance to sign them. So the 100% becomes incredibly important, and because we're only Continental Pro, interest is low. Difficult combination, and unlocking the nations at the time we did is leaving us out. It's leaving us in a position where those riders just aren't available for 2031. With extra time and planning next year, we've got access to a lot of big nations with good young riders, and there's got to be some guys that are going to have some major potential that we can get on the cheap. And then hopefully that 1 to 2 riders that can push us to the next stage, to the next level. But at this point, our top 3 are the same top 3 that we had last year following signing. Vatsek became part of that, but Lind and Shaw, the other 2 guys, none of their ratings have changed. Those 3 have not encountered a level up. And one of them's expiring in Shaw, and on the list of guys we're trying to get back here in a week. But at this stage, our top 3 might still be our top 3 for next year, which means there's actually a pretty legitimate chance that we're going to still be in Continental Pro in the coming year and only have a small increase to budget, which means we won't suddenly be able to go and sign guys that are now unlocked to us. Pogacar, Vingegaard, there are nations we have unlocked. We could sign them. It's massive. We can't afford them. There's no chance, and there's no interest. So no, that's not going to happen. We're not going to be signing a top 10 rider, and it feels like we actually are still going to be stuck in Continental Pro yet another year because of budget and because of the timing of the snowballing. But I'm optimistic that next year we will find a way to get the right kind of guys and make it happen. And if we could get more than a tiny boost, it might actually just come together for us. It really could. Our ranking's going to fall off for a little bit, but we are so far ahead of any other Continental Pro. There's none in the top 10, and we are 5,000 points ahead of 10th place. So we are very secure as the number 1 team. We'll get the full World Tour calendar regardless, but right now it's about, trying to finish snowballing, which it looks like we'll be done with possibly next year. All but maybe, if we can't get another 5 wins at the Tour, all but maybe 1 top nation would be about all that's left. And that's, 1 of 4. That's going to be either Belgium, France, Italy, or Spain, where the Netherlands is the only pop 8. So that's the next one. And we will obviously win at least 1 stage at the Tour next year. I don't think we can necessarily replicate what we've done this year and get 6 wins. That was a phenomenal result, very high. It was our best Tour. We got really lucky with how stage 1 went so horribly that it created a scenario that we could freely attack with Vatsek instead of ride GC with him and try to go with stages for other guys. And we would have won more than one stage with other guys had we gone for it, but we wouldn't have won 6 And Vatsek just found himself in, a phenomenal position, won both time trials for one thing, and highly, highly difficult to repeat unless he improves before next year, which he's got a little room for growth, and I'm actually surprised he hasn't leveled up at some point, but, he's not a super young rider either. But we have a couple of races that don't matter at this stage, and then we enter the San Sebastian and Polonia races before beginning La Vuelta. I'm not sure if there's anything in San Sebastian. Like, that's a good race and a good opportunity to try to pull a victory. It's also a sponsor objective, though of course we already gained the invitation to that and all of them. I'm hoping that the new system will kick in and give us a bit of a pay bump. But like I said, I'm not sure we're headed for World Tour, so I'm not sure we're going to be getting a pay bump. Our ranking, though, being in the top 3 and looking pretty secure in that top 3, that should come with a bit of a boost by itself. We'll see how all that plays out. But I've got a few spots to fill in. It's Lind, it's Vatsek, it's Montez, and Haddad, so they are both still coming back. But then it's G and Zayats, Jouet, and Zippinati. So a little different group than what we saw for the Tour at La Vuelta. A lot of the same guys, but again, that means you're going to add some fatigue. And for the Tour, they were very, very well prepared. They started their fitness peaks a little bit early, but really we didn't run into problems at the end. We only had a couple, 3 guys that had finished up before the race, and it was Vatsek himself lasted till the day after the Tour before his fitness peak ended. So it actually worked out really well on the timing. He was a little bit weaker the last couple of days of the Tour, including the time trial, but we won it and still got a +5 on that day anyway. That was, I think, the only positive race day condition draw that he had during the Tour. He was right where he was supposed to be, or a negative race day condition for a lot, but then of course he ended up in the +5 scenario day after day after day. So if he had positive draws, we just didn't see them because he was maxed out, and that was a good thing. But there was plenty of time during the first half of that race where he was not experiencing any massive bonus and just didn't have positive race day conditions when those opportunities existed. So all in all, like, we stacked the deck the way you're supposed to, and the way everybody does. That's how the real world does it. When you go to the Tour, you're going to bring your strongest group of riders for the most part, and you're going to get them all set. It's a major objective for every single team in the peloton, even for those Continental Pro teams that have no hope. They want to steal a stage. They want to make their sponsors happy so that they can get more money to be more competitive to hopefully make World Tour. There's a process for all of the teams involved. It's a major objective, regardless, for every single rider there, or almost every single rider there, right? If you're taking about 180, 190 guys in the field, it's an objective for 180 of them in real life. It's close to all. The 10 or so that it's not, either have some major thing happening, like, say, the Olympics, and they want to win a gold medal, or, say, injury replacement. That's the most common thing, is somebody wasn't preparing for the race, but somebody who got injured, and they come in as a late replacement on that and get named to the squad just before the Tour starts. It's the 1st of August, and we're going into the signing period with all my notes being torn up, and we're going to start the process from scratch. We're going to make World Tour. We are going to make World Tour, and here's why. Supplementary budget. This is that new patch 9 update, and yes, it does pick up immediately into existing saves because we are ranked 3rd. The team's current good ranking is very satisfying, and we'd like to congratulate you. After talks, we have decided to provide you with a supplementary budget of some really big number, 3794 and some zeros. That should allow you to strengthen the squad with a view to next season. Well, first glance of that, without any commas or periods, depending on where in the world you're from, on how things are organized and separated, that number, raw, unless you start counting digits, gets a little complex until you get to this page and you see that immediately we have a budget of $5 million per year. Now, we have a budget right now. What was our budget, you might ask? $1.2 million. Our budget was $1.2 million. It just went up by 3.79 million. We just took our budget that we had, tripled it, and added that to our budget. It's gone up by 300% to an exact $5 million. There's no accident there. I think that very clear, very round number very much has to do with the ranking that we have, but that's not all. That should be enough by itself. That really should be enough by itself. But remember, we were headed into a new sponsorship for next year with Williams. Well, that sponsorship also is rising, and doing the math, it's exactly clear how and why. So we hit this mark of $5 million because of the performance bonus. Massive increase, right? 3.79 million. Well, we're going to get an extra 176,000 on top of that. Now, that number actually also makes total sense because we were at 1.206. We had agreed to terms for an increase that would bring us to 1.382, or an increase of 176,000. So now we make this massive jump to 5 million, which is insane. That is an insane jump in finances. And now we get to pile on even more with the earlier agreed upon increase of 176,000. So instead of having an extra 176,000 over an entire year to spend, so divided by 12 months, meaning we were going to get maybe about 15,000, just shy of 15,000 a month more. Well, all of a sudden we are going to get we're going to get almost 4 million more than we had. 1.2 becomes 5.1. Very close to 4 million extra. I'm not going to do the hard math, but the very, very quick in my head, that's an extra 350,000 a month. That is a few big contracts. That is a few very big contracts available to us. Biggest obstacle. I'm going to find a way. We're going to make World Tour. Biggest obstacle? Dossier cost. The finances, still a little bit of an obstacle. Not many guys are at 100%. Not many guys are in yellow, in neutral, where we're going to have to pay extra. We can afford to pay extra now, at least for a few contracts, right? Get some guys in, get started, get us into World Tour, guarantee that going forward. Then the Dossier cost comes down, and we can really finish this thing off next year, next season. Complete the pool. Dossier cost and interest are still going to be an issue for this year. So only so many riders are available to me. And as much as we just snowballed a ton of nations, top 5 nations are still unavailable, and a handful of other nations. So we're not going to have access to everyone, and we've got to overcome a lot of red. Let's look at the list briefly. First, looking at the dossiers and what we can do with that. We got a lot of green, but we do still have some guys in yellow, but at least they have the interest. But it's all 5-star guys. All of it's 5-star guys. None of them are going to necessarily push us into World Tour. We are going to have to look elsewhere. But you look at the list here, and Evenepoel's available in Milan, and Philipsen, and Pogacar, and Ghana, and Vingegaard, Ucha-Brooks, and Martinez. All the 6-star guys will not sign. No matter how much money we throw at them, we can get a 100%, but they will not sign because the interest is in the red. It has to be yellow or above. The first guy, Lawrence Pithy, is available to us. Henning Sorenson is available to us, and we're talking acceptable Dossier amounts. But that's only a single 5.5-star guy, meaning I don't even have a choice. The only 5.5-star guy available is Lawrence Pithy, is from New Zealand, and I can't sign him. I cannot sign Lawrence Pithy. There's still a chance that we are going to be in Continental Pro next season. Australian Alex Bogna is important, and here is why. He's 3.5 stars, 28 years old, has no room for progression. He's got a 74 mountain rating. He's important because he is not going to be a signing, but he is the first one. The very first rider on the list that has green, that has 100% interest. Outside of the guys on the far side of the screen, the flip side, the 7 guys over there that we worked on and achieved a 100% interest, meaning they become easy no-brainer signings for all 7, or at least probably 6. We should be able to negotiate a better deal with them than anybody else. Retaining those 5 team members and adding Luke Ortiz and Todome seems a no-brainer. I think that's where our signings will begin. Maintaining Shaw means maintaining our 3 5-star guys. We are going to have to look to the 5-star pool for the highest rated, because there is a hidden decimal point and they are ranked by evaluation. So the higher decimal point should be higher up the list, meaning we might not be able to sign Lawrence Pithy, the only 5.5-star guy who's interested. We need to come down that list to Henning Sorenson, Giorgio Shamanin, and find out who is eligible, who can we sign at the top end of this list. Sorenson is Denmark. That's the latest nation that we unlocked, or at least certainly was one of the ones during the tour that we unlocked. I think it was the last one. Shamanin will not be eligible. He's from Italy. Lindkvist is from Sweden, and we did unlock Sweden this year. So Lindkvist is available. Lucas Plapp is not. So I think 2 of our earliest targets need to be Sorenson and Lindkvist so that we can push our 5-star higher. I looked through the list, and the most talented guys that have like the potential, the 6-star potential, young guys, they're from nations or lack interest. So it's going to be hard to find somebody who's suddenly going to be better. I think we have to just try to push our decimal that little higher. Remember how close we were last year. Shaw, we could really use a level up from Shaw, but we have the finances to be able to go after these kind of guys. What we don't have is very many Dossier points, and so we're going to have to be careful how we use it. It's going to take some careful planning, and I'm not going to show you negotiations necessarily. I think we're late enough into this episode that we really just need to see who we end up with. You've got my top targets already in mind. Fingers crossed that we see them across the line and that it gives us a pretty healthy boost. Index at the moment, 12th. And that's with only 2 5-star guys returning. It'll go even higher with the 3rd one. But then you've got this free agent pool. And there's a lot of good guys above the list of what I can go after that are out there. But grabbing a Sorenson, grabbing a Lindkvist could be pretty helpful to us and could be really good additions, as they're both strong climbers. It keeps them away from other teams as well, doing us just that tiny little bit of a favor more to help us maybe crack into World Tour. All we need to do is crack in. It's not the end of the world if we don't make it this year, but if we can just crack in, like, the Dossier cost goes so much cheaper next year, especially if we're a top 3 team in the World Tour. And next year we could sign just about anybody we want for that following season. There's a good chance that Zippinati and G will be re-signed, but I'll wait, especially because of the Dossier cost. We've gotten, for 11 points out of our 60, Shaw, Harasim, and Montez are all ready to re-sign. Successful negotiations, money saved on the deals. for a total of 44,000. Of what we had was 366,000 more a month to spend. So we are down to 322,000 per month still able to spend. That's a lot of money, but again, it's going to come down to availability, and we're definitely going to spend some of it, but I don't want to necessarily spend all of it because I don't expect to also have a huge increase next season. We got a big world tour first, and we could see another jump. We'll try to save some of this for next year, but we will absolutely go after some bigger contracts. We will sign some guys. Todome is 28 already, but he's 5-star and has some potential left. He does still have some levels left in him at a 78. This seems like a no-brainer signing for me. The Dossier cost is also only 5 points, and he's got that 100% interest and can save us some money. So it's a simple signing, and yeah, it looks like pretty cheap, less than what he's making right now. 31 is pushing it, but not that far. We'll take the 3-year contract. That'll help actually make him happier, right? He is not going to be happy with luxury teammate, but we'll see if he likes important rider. And I think we can get away with signing him for potentially less, so we'll start low. Okay, he hates the money, but we're not far away. We can go right back to where we were, and still not enough, even though he's happy elsewhere. Interesting on that part. I'll push him up to 21, and there you go. 21, that's a very good deal for a 5-star guy. Now, Shaw was number 1 on our list. Todome does come in underneath Shaw. So where that brings him, is he above Vatsek or above Lind? I couldn't tell you. But I think he is amongst the lower 5-star kind of guys. So we very much, if we're going to make a bigger boost, this will push us to 10th for the time being. But I think we could use a bigger 5-star signing. We've already seen those guys at the top of the list. They're next. So Andrew August looks a good signing, but he's already below Aiden Shaw on this list, and that these guys are over here to the left. They are not on the list to the right, so it's really hard to make a comparison on the left-hand side of the screen versus the right-hand side of the screen. But Pithy's unavailable, and Sorenson is the highest rated, and he's only 23. So Sorenson is my next target. He is nearly maxed out, but who cares? He's young and 5-star quality, and can climb better than anybody on our roster, and is punchier than anybody on our roster, and has good stamina. He is a great addition from our latest snowball. He is going to be costly, but we still have 44 points to play with, and if we decide we want to hang on to Derek G for another year because of all the good things he's done, there's still 40 points remaining. Sorenson costs 7. August costs 12. We still have room to play even after making these couple of additional signings and focusing on these bigger, stronger guys. So we might as well. I mean, the interest is there. Sorenson is willing to sign. Let's go for it. He's not interested in being a leader. We're going to have to bump him up to an absolute leader. Obviously, Sprinter's not going to cut it. 3 years for the deal. He's young and not going to get any worse anytime soon, and he's good, so we definitely want to hang on to him. So the 3 years will help with that, but the interest is lacking, and the salary at 36.8's not great, but we've got plenty of room, right? We've got plenty of wiggle room at 300K still left over. I think it's going to cost us probably more than 40. But we'll start there with our first. That's not even close to making him happy. But of course, once we get into the green, we'll get a pretty healthy jump. But it's going to take a lot more than, say, 46. That still doesn't get us there. That's still not green. Now, here's our biggest problem is we're going to not just overpay a little. We're going to overpay a lot. Let's not leave this to chance. 54,000 is enough. That is a massive contract. We never would have dreamed of a $54,000 contract. Now, Shaw, his signing, because we haven't officially brought him in, brought us up to 10th. This puts us in the same territory. So Shaw seems to be, or at least Sorenson seems to be similar to Shaw. which means the reality for that should be a bit of a bump, right? If he's up with Shaw, we might have a better chance. We might have a better chance of raising that profile a little bit further and giving us a legitimate shot at making World Tour. Well, it does turn out that Sorenson comes in above Shaw, and Lind is above Shaw. Has Lind leveled up? He does have an 82 Barrador rating all of a sudden, a 79 flat, 79 stamina. I think he was at a 78, but that Barrador rating has seen Kevin Lind apparently level up in the last week or two, because he's now number 1 on the list, where Shaw was 1, Lind was 2, Vacek was 3. Todome will come in at 4, so Todome does not raise the profile, but he would have risen the profile, right? He would have been above Vacek. Lind gave us a little bit of a boost, but Sorenson gives us an even bigger boost for the moment, and it's absolutely not going to stay there, but for the moment we jump all the way from 12th to 3rd. We're going to go back the other direction as the 6-star guys, 5.5-star guys sign on with teams. The big thing is, have we made enough of a jump to hang on? I think the plan at this stage is to take the 2 highest profile guys we can get to see if we can eke out a little bit more, see if they can crack the top 3. I know they won't crack, they won't crack the top 1. Sorenson was the best available. Lindkvist could come in still ahead of Shaw. August will not, so I'm going to start with Lindkvist and sign him. For one thing, we're already looking at well-rounded, and an 80 mountain, he'll be the highest on the team. 76 medium mountain, not as well rounded in other areas, but it's the strongest pure climber. He was making 40K. It's going to take more than 40K to sign him, but as we still have 246K, and if I'm only going to make, say, 2 more signings of the large value variety, we'll still have plenty of money left over for the next year, and any potential increases there, a good 150,000 or so to really get after. But making World Tour is what's going to help the dossier and increase interest simply across the board and give us a chance to get to 100% next year. But that does mean maybe shorter contracts and kind of take another shot at it a year from now. Okay, actually 33K is good. 33K is good. It's going to take more than that, but he's already happy with leader. He's already happy with 2 years. I'm going to go ahead and go for 3 years because Lindkvist is asking for less, but I know that 33K won't cut it. So we'll start at 38. Push it out to 44. Okay, we're very close. He is happy with the salary now, though, so we're not going to see an additional bump. The downside here is now I'm already locked in on the 3 years when it's like, wait, hold on. No, we're still paying a lot here. 49. That does it. 49. So it does end up costing us, what, 16K extra? I mean, we're looking at, we've wasted 30K. I would never dream of doing something like that. And yet, here we are. Here we are with this massive pay bump and adding Lindkvist, which does not change the team index, but when you're already in the top 3, it's really hard to tell whether he's going to actually crack that list or not. We might not go for August at this point. We've made some really, really good additions here, and I'm not sure we need any extra expenditure at this point. Like, we're just throwing money away, and I'd still like to be able to come out and sign some guys next year, right? So Lindkvist does crack the top 3. He comes in above Aiden Shaw. Is that well worth the cost? Well, I don't know. Like I said, we've wasted a good 30,000. That is a ton of money. I mean, that's more than our biggest contract. That is more than our biggest contract, but you know, it was costing us 20 to 30K before. These were guys that are a little bit better, would have required 35K or so, but that's a lot on top of that. In fact, I think it's more like 35K that we've wasted in those 2 signings. August is not going to raise the profile, though, and so I think I might be content with 3 very high-profile 5-star guys versus 3 lower profile 5-star guys. I think that's given us a legitimate shot at making World Tour. That's giving us a legitimate shot of seeing Dossier and interests being much more favorable a year from now. And I do still have 28 points remaining, but now cost is becoming a factor, and without the 100%, these guys are all going to be expensive. But with 100%, Derek G, Luke Ortiz, and Zippinati are all approachable. For G, we're definitely talking about a 1-year deal, and it's a good chance to grow the squad a little bit, be capable of handling more. We've had such a small squad the last couple of years. Let's see what it's going to take to bring him in. Oh yeah, huge salary drop. We only need one more rider, 1 more year from him though. We can make him a leader, and I have a feeling we can get him for a little bit less, possibly because of the 100%. No, he hates that salary. So back to 9-2. No, still not happy. Come on. 10,000. Okay, 11,000 it is, and we get him signed. 1-year deal, 11K. 1 more year for Derek G. I mean, obviously we still have the spare money for the coming year. This isn't going to hurt us. We're going to make a lot of bank. We're going to be able to invest in some development, some facility stuff for next year. So that's going to be exciting to have kind of that spare cash. Yeah, Ortiz does have good potential, so we will go ahead and make the signing. He should be on a minimum or close to it. Surprised not 4 stars though. And he's not happy with luxury. Important, I guess. And we'll try to sign him for a little bit less. There you go. Yeah, 5.9. That's a good deal. Well, with all the big new signings, Zippinati becomes redundant. He is not important anymore for this squad. Hasn't done much. He does have 4 victories, but I don't think any of them are snowball type. And with some new signings, we may not bother with a Zippinati re-signing. I don't think it's going to be necessary. We'll leave him out. Well, with 4 of 5 expiring contracts renewed and 4 additional signings, that means we're +3 on the roster size, bringing us up to 21 riders for the coming year, which is still a pretty small squad. That is still very much a small squad. I'm going to do a little bit of hunting. I still have some Dossier points. We don't have to go for an Andrew August and spend another 45,000, 50,000 on an embellished contract, which it just feels wrong. I've already done it twice, and I don't feel like it's necessary right now. We're getting really big additions. The 3 guys we're bringing in, Todome has a 78-78, Lindkvist has an 80-76, and Sorenson has a 78-77. The 3 best climbers we're going to have on the roster. We're going to be capable of being much, much more competitive in the mountain races next year with these additions. It does not put us as favorites. We have nothing but 5-star guys, but we suddenly have quite a few 5-star guys and a lot of 4.5-star guys behind them. So we will be more capable next year, despite only pushing the envelope. Now, this question still remains whether it's enough to get us into World Tour. It's going to be close. As much as we've added a point and, finally look like this might be enough, it's going to only be just. But last year we just missed. So I think pushing up our 3 lower 5-star guys to 3 higher 5-star guys is going to give us the edge. But, suddenly Lind is up there, but he was down here. He was down in the Todome territory just a little bit ago. So Lind, Shaw, and Vatsek, or Lind, Shaw, and Todome, the would have been signing without the pay increase. That might have been enough. That might have been enough to make it. Well, now we've got a better shot with Sorenson and Lindkvist as well. So we're going to add in 3 more prospects to finish this off. All of them in the new portion of the pool. None of the existing Dossier guys that we had, because either they were already at that 5-star and only hit yellow and would have cost a ton and therefore been way too expensive. And actually, there was a fourth guy too that I spoke to, and I'm down to 3 Dossier points, by the way, so I've expended it now. And there's a fourth one I talked to. He was a 4.5 with 5-star potential. Just asking too much. We were talking 20 something thousand for him, and not yet at a deal. And so I didn't want to push that out to 24K for a prospect who's not yet even 5 stars, simply because we had low interest. But I did come to terms with 3 guys, one of them on the cheap, 3K for a 4-star Auf der Maur, but Palmer and Bammer were in the 10-15K kind of range, and 4.5 stars, with one of them 5.5-star potential and one of them 5-star potential. So good additions for the future, and pushes us out to 24 riders for the year to come. Completing the team, really. That's going to complete the team, and I think we're going to be a lot stronger for it. Palmer is a time trialist specialist. He's only 21, 76 current, but he's got potential. He's already got a good flat rating, so he's a good, helpful lead-out rider. But his real potential that I'm looking at is a much higher cobble rating than what he has currently of a 71. He's a classics guy with a little bit of sprint capability. For Bammer, we're looking at a medium mountain and hills rating, and is a puncher, but he actually has plenty of potential as a climber. He should add a lot of points in his mountain rating. We already added in Ortiz, who is a medium mountain and hills guy and time trialist, and then Auf der Maur. The other signing is classics with sprint capability, and he's supposed to be decent at time trialing as well eventually, but both of those guys are brought in for the classics and or team time trials. With that, we're going to grow from 18 to 24, and with that you can see how much better we are going to be in hills and in GC capability, getting back what we lost with Hagelin and more. Still iffy on the classics, but we got the 2 guys with potential in that department coming in to help give us a little bit more. And our sprint is going to be decent, and with the patch 9, clearly we've been more involved in sprints of late. So we're going to be fairly well-rounded, even with decent time trialing in the year to come. For now, we project for World Tour, but time will tell if we actually make it. That's going to do it for this episode. I'm excited that we've got 6 more riders than we had this year, with both high-end talent and some good prospects, and lots of funding left over for the next year. A good 200,000 left over for the next year per month availability. And so that's a lot that we can put into facilities and bonuses for the riders for next year. I think we're going to have a really good year on our hands, because we've got strong climbers coming in, strong punchers coming in, and more potential in classics. We could just about be a well-rounded team next year. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.